Today we need to make the templates for our new dash panel. Here's the old one, as well as the where the radio went on the Key West to cover up all the old spots. We need to make the templates so that way we can send them to newwiremarine.com for them to make our dash panel. And then here are the finished templates and what they look like. But now let's just go ahead and start from the very beginning and show you exactly how we got to this point here with these finished templates. All we really need to do, as you can see, this is basically just like a clear piece of plastic, or laminate, I guess you would call it. So all we really need to do is kind of cut this thing down to size the way we want it, or you could even just mark it up the way you want it, and you just basically draw this thing out. What I want to do is go ahead and cut our first piece, which is going to go on the bottom. I'm just going to cut however long I need the strip to be, and we'll take that out, mark that one first, and then we'll work on the top side. Alright, so I got a couple problems. One being that if I go all the way down to the starboard, I got 5.5, will cover and look pretty clean. But if I come over to here, 5.5 is right at the top. 5.5 is like barely at the top. So this one right here covers a lot. I mean, this goes all the way, so that's pretty even. But from here over, I've got about a 1/4 inch of play in this right here. So if I make that, obviously we're gonna have a straight piece, and I'm guessing that this is straight and this is what's wavering. So I've got about a 1/4 inch in difference from here, and then like a little dip in here, and then back up to here. So I think what I'm gonna do is, a lot of times in order to cheat that out and make it to where you can't really notice it, we're gonna have to put gaps in here. So we'll need maybe a 1/4 inch gap here and maybe a 1/4 inch gap here. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and make it 5 inches, and that way I can hide everything in a little bit. If I have a 1/4 inch gap at the bottom and a 1/4 inch at the top, it'll kind of blend it in over. So if I make this thing 5 inches tall all the way across, that's that'll give me plenty of room all the way around it. So I'm going to do 5 inches, and I've got 23.5. So I got 5 inches by 23.5, and that's going to be my bottom piece. Now as for the top piece, we're going to have to do something similar. Let me measure this and see what I'm looking like. Alright, so we've got somewhat of a problem because our bottom is 26 inches across, top is 25.5 inches across, and it's all roughly 10 1/4. It's going to look alright, but this right here, this bend is a lot more of a radius than this one is, and then this one right here also has a bigger radius than this side. So being not uniform, when we put a cover on there, you're going to be able to notice that. So what we need to do is be able to cheat it enough to hide the inconsistencies in the edges. So for that reason, I think what we're going to do is definitely make it 10 inches. So this thing's going to be 10 inches tall all the way across, and then now I just need to decide on top and bottom width wise. What I'm going to do is just go 25.25 on the top, 25.5 on the bottom, and 10 inches across the top all the way. So that way it gives me a little bit of a cheat on each side. It'll only be 1/8 of an inch of a split between the bottom and the top on each side. So that will make it look pretty uniform and give me enough space on the sides to kind of let this radius show and not leave me with an overhang of the panel, but yet cover the entire dash. I think I might have a problem with this thing only being, let's see what we got here. Now this thing is only 24 inches, so that is kind of a bummer, but it'll work for my first piece. So all I need is 5 inches by 23. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna make it 6 inches just so I can make it 7 just so I can write on it. Okay, so here is my first piece. And I need this thing to be 23, or I need 5 inches by 23 and a half. So if I got an inch here, and I got an inch here. This right here is going to be 5 inches. I'm going to make this 23 and a half inches. Same thing for the bottom. Now, one thing that I do want to point out though is I want rounded corners. So that's looking pretty good. I got rounded corners here. I want those to be rounded. I got lines showing that we need to have 23 inches on the top, 23 inches on the and a half inches on the bottom, 5 inches tall, and that's kind of what our piece is going to look like so far. And now what we need to do is go ahead and start marking where our stuff is going to go. And for that I need to get a couple things. Here are the things that I want to put in here. Here is my radio. Like I said, we're going to want to have it like off-centered a little bit. I need to go out and measure where the center of the steering wheel is just to get a better idea, but this is going to be something like this radio right here. Then I'm going to have a DC port right there, and then I'm also going to have a USB and USB-C port right here. So those two will be right next to the radio, and then we'll have the key switch somewhere in this area right about here, and that'll be kind of how it's going to look. So I need to go measure where my the center of the steering wheel is, and then based on that will be based on how far over I want this radio, and then I'll make these, you know, look very clean next to this. And then over here to the side we're gonna have 2 holes for our key switch and our lanyard to go in, that they will fit into the old hole on the dash. All right, so this is the middle of my steering wheel. If I leave 4 inches over here for a knee, that puts the radio about right here. This is starting to tighten up everything. I also need to figure out how far in this is going to be, because these things are looking like they're starting to, those are going to be a problem where they are going to be at. So I don't really like the way that is shaping up. So let's go take a little bit better look of some more measurements as far as like these, you know, that's almost dead center of the piece. So let's go take a look one more time at where our knee's going to be, how far over this key switch is. So it looks like we're going to be roughly 3 3/8 is going to be the middle right there. 3 1/4, 3 3/8, somewhere right along there is going to be about the middle of the key switch. And you know, looking at this, I think I might actually be perfect. So, you know, given roughly 4 inches over here for my knee to be right here, and then this kind of be right there, it might be almost perfect. So see, here's the center of it, about where we're trying to put our stuff, which I don't really like. I mean, the middle of that door is about, it's close. So knee, so I just need to get this, you know, the radio, maybe I can spare a little room over here. This is 4 inches, so maybe if I put the radio, maybe I could put it 3 inches. So here's 3 inches, that's where my knee's at, so the knee will be right close to it. Same thing here. So there's my 3 inches. 3 inches is about right there. I mean, that's pretty comfortable. So I think I'm going to go 3 inches for the radio over, and then as long as I am just off center, I'll be all right with the knee. At least plenty of space for the key switch. So, you know, right here is pretty safe. The knee's going to be close to center, but I'll give 3 inches for the radio, and then I need to be just off center with this. So as long as I'm, you know, 1 inch off of the center, I'll be all right. So I got 3/8 of an inch of radio that sticks out from the cutout. So I need my cutout to be 3 3/8 inch inward. Looks like I got 5 5/16 inches for the radio cutout, and it looks like we are 2 1/16 inch out. We're going to go ahead and call this template number 2. Well, that would have been smarter if I would have just done this, huh? Look at how off that is. That's pretty bad. I might as well just do this, huh? I'm gonna make this 10 1/8. That'd be good. Okay, so this is starting to come together. We've got basically most of what we're looking at looking pretty good. These are going to look, you know, something like that. It's going to be just off the side of it, looking pretty good. Same thing for our DC port, 2 holes there. Our radio is going to look like that. Not bad. I could honestly probably drop this down like to a little bit more, seeing as I got quite a big difference between the two, but I mismeasured that's for sure. Now I just need to be 3 3/8 from the edge here. So here is my 3, and I'm going to be 6 3/8 to the middle, 3 3/8 to the middle, and 3 3/8 to the middle. Okay, and that is pretty much what we're looking at right there. That's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. Looks like we've got template 2, rounded corners. Everything looks pretty good. I think the only thing that I am missing right now is I need to put screws. So I need 4 screws across here. The math is going to be a little bit difficult because 23.5 inches. Well, it doesn't, you can't divide that by 4. It needs to be 24. So I guess you got 8 inches. So, you know, a 1/2 inch divided by 4 is 1/8 of an inch. So if I take 1/8 of an inch off of 6, that gives me 5 7/8 inch. So 5 7/8 all the way across, or I could just, you know, come in. I'm not sure exactly the spacing. It's going to be roughly 5 7/8 inch-ish from each spot. So I'm going to need, you know, 1 here, 1 here, you know, 1 here, 1 here. 4 screws across the top and across the bottom. Now we need to get our next template done. This one should be pretty easy, so we just need to get 25.5 is the biggest point, so it's 10 inches. So I just need to get like 12 inches out of this thing. Yeah, make it, yeah, 12 inches is good. 25.5 is what I need, so I'm going to go ahead and get 27. Same thing over here. I'm just going to get me 27 inches. And then we just need to get another 12. So 12 inches. We need 25.25 by 25.5 and 10 inches. So my top is 25.25, bottom is 25.5, and we are 10 inches apart. So going down here, 25.5. I'm just gonna bring this in. I made this what, 12 inches? So I'm gonna bring this in 3/4 of an inch. Just need to come up 10 inches from that line. So I'm coming up here to 15. And then I'm doing the same thing over here. 25.25 up here at the top. And we're going to call this template number 1. This right here is going to be 25.25. This down here is going to be 25.5. And this is going to be 10 inches. That's our top dash panel that we're going to be looking at. So now all I need to do is kind of go out and mark where my control box is going to go. And then I also want to mark where my steering helm is going to go. And then I can bring it in here and put my other panel on there and get the where we want our gauges and all that stuff to be. All right, this is by no means perfect, but pretty good. You know, everything is laid out pretty much exactly the way I need it to be. That's good, that's good. They'll be able to make this, and I went ahead and put these lines here for where the helm is going to be, so that way I can use the old template. I'm going to put the dash on there. So if I come over here, I just need to get all the stuff off of this dash real quick, and then we will go ahead and put this down over there and mark this line, this line, this line, so that way we know where the stuff goes. We can stencil out where our gauges go, and then the breakers and all that stuff is going to be separate, because those are all going to be new rocker switches, and the rocker switches are going to come up and have breakers underneath them. So whatever needs to be done there will be done there. Alright, so I've got it pretty much level here at the bottom. That's what I really wanted to make sure that that was right. And now what I can do, I've got these two marks lined up, and I've got this top line marked up from the top. So all I want are these two gauges here. That's all I really need to have marked for my gauges. And now That leaves just enough room for a breaker and for the rocker switches. Well, the battery died while I was writing that up, but this is what I did is I've just got 4, breakers on both sides and rocker switches. 4 rocker switches centered on the gauge, and then this will be centered, between the bottom of the panel and the gauge. And then 4 breakers here at the bottom. We're gonna have nav light, courtesy light, bilge pump, and the horn. And then over here, same thing, 4 rocker switches centered on the gauge, 4 breakers on the bottom, live well, GPS, radio, and the accessories. So that is going to give us all 8. We've got our 2 gauges right there, and then we've also got our control box right here, the helm in the middle, and that is going to be it. This is going to be made out of 1/2-inch black matte acrylic. And then, the more perfect you make this, the better it's going to be for them. But obviously, it's very difficult to get the perfect, setup here, or well, the perfect drawing. Everybody makes mistakes, and so they're really easy to work with. So if you do mess this up, you just talk to them and you guys can get it figured out. But the better you make the diagram, the better the measurements are, the better it's going to look. This is super easy. So then when I send this in, it's going to make it super easy on them to make it. But that is how we make a template. Now I just need to package this up and send it in, and they will make the panel, and then we'll be able to put it on.